Legend ZA has finally gotten an extended look, and I am more than excited, especially as my baby Chikorita is finally back! There are a million potential questions to ask with this. What will the Megas be? When in time is this set? And why is Easy running an entire hotel within the game? And why does he look like he went from hobo to the god of fashion? All this and more is what I intend to answer in my over-analysis of everything we've received regarding Legends ZA in this trailer. Howdy there, I'm Acrylic, and I'm so excited that I cannot waste any time with anything. I am ready to dive into this over-analysis, and we're just simply going to break down everything that we have seen piece by piece in order of how we saw it for the most part, starting with Lumiose City itself. It has been revealed that this is the Lumiose City renovation plan. This means that Lumiose City is being recreated, and it is being recreated into a place where both humans and wild Pokemon can cohabitate areas together. This extends from running around the city on both the ground and through designated wild areas that the city itself has designed. And it seems like these wild areas are properly designated through a special shielding technology, meaning that we can even have Pokemon battles within the designated areas between both wild and trainer Pokemon. The wild areas are specifically stated to be areas in which wild Pokemon are given habitats in which they can thrive. Meaning, of course, we will have specially designated areas designed for Pokemon and their wanted or their desired habitats. We even get to see the Sandile Lion swimming through the ground. Please tell me we're not going to get hunted in these areas. But before I go into what our battles look like, I of course have to give you our starter Pokemon. Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, two of them being Generation 2, and one from Generation 5. I'm overly excited about this because Pokemon Crystal was my first game, and Chikorita was my starter, my first Pokemon. Everyone and their mothers was expecting a Meganium, but the other two, probably not. Throughout the game, we do see our starter in a number of different locations with us, following us, sitting on a chair where we can enjoy a meal together, and even celebrating after a battle. And I have to say this here and now, I'm hyper excited about the idea of sharing a meal with my Pokemon. I don't know why, it's super cute, but I love it. What I'm also curious about though is whether or not our Pokemon will be able to follow us at all times. After all, within the Heart Gold Soul Silver games is where we actually had the partner/lead Pokemon allowed to follow us throughout the game. And so we might have that back in this one, and the game is looking smooth, so I might be able to support it. Also, the models in this are, mwah, oh, they're looking so much better and cleaner. The city looks great. The leaves are nice. I hope that it stays that consistent throughout the entire game. And even the UI, while there's a lot on screen, is so smooth and nice that I am okay with it. More on some of this later. For our starters, I will at least give the following predictions. If our starters get alternate forms or mega forms, I really, really want Meganium to become a grass fairy type. I can almost guarantee though that we are going to end up with a grass dragon or a grass ground form instead. My reasoning for this is because of the Space Road 97 demo that existed and had the original Chikorita line there. I broke down all the betas from that in another video, but I will share what I have here about this line. More specifically, Bayleaf was known in Japanese as Hanamogura, and it was wildly different. It looks like we have a balding Ditto with a mouth on its crotch sitting in a flower, but that's just, you know, my brain not being able to process it. It kind of reminds me a bit of Floette in a weird way. Now, according to others, it is seemingly based on moles, which use the kanji meaning flower and earth dragon, Mogura, thus being a mole that blossoms into a dragon. The antennae from the design persist in Meganium's final design from that. This means that we could end up having an alternate form or a mega form of Meganium that would follow that motif, just as Ampharos did with its Japanese name Denryu. Den and Ryu can be broken down to mean electric dragon, which is exactly what its mega form ended up becoming. Though for Chikorita being a grass fairy type possibility, it has been brought to my attention that it doesn't learn Disarming Voice normally, and you can see it having Disarming Voice in the game. It does learn Charm as a fairy move, but not even through TM can Chikorita learn Disarming Voice. So, who knows? We might actually have what everyone is expecting, the Grass Fairy Chikorita. As for Tepig and our Totodile line, we can take a gander at their names and other information to see if we can get any form of play on words for our potential future typings. Thank you, Bulbapedia, for your assistance. Emboar may be a combination of Ember, Emperor, and Boar in the English name. Emboar may be a combination of En, Flame, Buta, Pig, Bu, Martial Arts, Bu, Oink, O, King, and possibly Ember and Boar. Who would have guessed? Emboar is based on a boar. Additionally, Ken Sugimori has said that Tepig, Pignite, and Emboar were designed in a Chinese style, specifically mentioning the character of Zhang Fei from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms as Emboar's inspiration. Zhang Fei was assassinated by his own subordinates and had his head severed and presented for the opposing faction, which may have been alluded to in Emboar's design, as its head is quote-unquote separated from the rest of its body by a wreath of fire. The wreath of fire also resembles a cape or a scarf. Emboar may also be based on Zhu Bajie, a pig demon from the Chinese tale Journey to the West. Superior, Emboar, and Samurai's evolution lines are collectively based on Western, Chinese, and Japanese culture, respectively, to represent the diversity of the Unova region. I'm willing to bet one of two possibilities because of our understanding of Zhang Fei, in order to represent the idea of assassination or the Emperor. If it gets a mega or alternate form, I'd be willing to bet that we would get motifs of steel to represent the purity and power of an Emperor, or the dark type for the underhandedness of the situation, the assassination, so on and so forth. Now, finally, we get to look at the Totodile line. For Alligator, it's a combination of feral, ferocious, alligator. The shortening of Gator was likely just because of the, number of letters that you can use in Generation 2. And then Ordile may be a combination of O, King, O, Emperor, or O, Large, and Crocodile. So, there's not a lot to work with here. The beta that would be replaced by Totodile is far too separated to really pull anything from it in order to create something here. But once again, we have another opportunity in front of us where it could become something such as a steel typing itself, or mix it up and give it that fighting typing instead, since it has the ferocious word likely mixed into its name. Just kind of move things around a little bit. And this all could give us some relative balance overall. It's just that the Totodile line kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into things and doesn't feel like it's much to go off. I mean, who knows? Maybe we do end up with, even if we end up with ground, dragon, or fairy, and the other two are steel and then dark, we have some opportunity, or at least even steel and fighting, then we'd have a proper opportunity to see that type combination work with each other in terms of our trio. Not to say that that will happen, and it doesn't happen every single time when our Pokemon get alternate forms or additional typings added to them, but it's a hopeful possibility. Alternatively, we could just go crazy and give, for Alligator, the fire-water type for some crazy reason. Just make the spikes on its back a bunch of flames spouting off. I'm spitballing and I'm ready to move on. Back to battling and encounters, we can see a number of things. Our initial encounter is an alert. The Pokemon has an exclamation point above its head and it approaches, but we get to see our Pokemon attack it before a battle actually begins. We know this because in battles, we can see the opposing Pokemon in the battle on the right-hand side of the screen. This means that when a Pokemon is alerted to us, we might be able to attack them before a battle begins, stun them, and that will make it easier to catch them if we hit them with a correct move, a strong enough move, or a move that is super effective. We are back to the amazing Legends catching method, and we have that lock-on assist to do so as well, and when we are in battle, Pokemon itself has taken a massive leap. Moves now have a range and an area of effect. So if you're gonna be using a water type attack, let's say it's a water gun, it's only gonna go a couple feet out. Or let's say you're using Earthquake, it's probably gonna affect a specific area within range. This means that your Pokemon and others' Pokemon can actually dodge attacks now, as you are able to move around. And you can set up things like Stealth Rock and Protect. You have to actually time your attacks a little bit, meaning we have real-time Pokemon battles, as evidenced by the Protect that is used in the showing of it, and the Stealth Rock that is set up right before the opposing Pokemon attacks, slamming into it and taking damage. Your Pokemon are able to move around freely, again, dodge these attacks, which you yourself might be able to control in battle. I'm a little shaky about it. In addition, we do see that there are multiple Pokemon per encounter, depending on the encounter, as we see a Garbodor and a bunch of Trubbish I wouldn't be surprised if there's a side mission for that specifically, where it's like, oh no, something's been in my dumpster, go figure out what it is. Oh gosh, it's a Garbodor and Trubbish, oh no. But since our moves have a range and an area of effect, we see an attack hit 2 of the 3 Pokemon. The third one being outside of the range of the attack, which I love. I am all for this. Specifically, I love the idea of, if there are 4, 5, 6 Pokemon, I don't care if my move is only supposed to hit 2. I want to hit them all if I time it right, or if I position things right. Give me that special RPG aspect. Again, we have real-time Pokemon combat, and that is further evidenced by the side of the screen, where we can see 4 moves aligned to what would be a directional pad, meaning that while we are in battle, we will have to learn how to move ourselves, the camera, and use the moves themselves as quick select moves while battling. This creates a lot of layers to the Pokemon combat system, and I'm personally all for it. I don't mind the complicatedness of it all, or the potential complicatedness of it all. That's not really a word, but I do hope for some people that they install a more traditional fighting style, maybe a little bit more akin to the original Legends ZA fighting style, just because it'd be nice for them, and it might be overwhelming to some people. Now, as I was staring at these screens, I started to realize something. We are seeing Eevees in almost every shot, or rather, we are seeing every type of Eevee. Right in front of the screen, in parties of the trainer who is battling, literally just showing Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon with 3 trainers. We see every single Eevee, except I never noticed a Leafeon anywhere. And they make those original 3 pretty obvious alongside the original Eevee itself. They're teasing. They know what they're doing. They know what people want. So, what does that mean for our Eeveelution possibility that everybody wants? And, I mean, if we get an Eeveelution, then it will be one of 4 types I am personally predicting. Flying, as that was a confirmed Eevee to have been scrapped. It would be perfect as an Eevee to allow us to soar over the buildings, move around, and get to see the areas. Actually, flying in this game would be really, really cool. A poison type Eevee, as a reference to the original Gen 2 games, has already been made, and we'll talk more about Generation 2 references later. And the poison typing is actually what Umbreon was originally supposed to be. You evolve it via Poison Stone, it becomes a poison type, had the same relative design, and we move on. I would also personally like that typing because it would be weak to Psychic and strong against the Fairy type. None of the Eeveelutions are strong against Fairy, and Psychic isn't strong against any of the other ones. It would balance out that offensive a little bit and defensive. We could also get the Dragon typing, which is what everyone's been griping for so long, but I honestly personally doubt that, even though it would be cool. And then there's one final possibility that I wasn't thinking about before until I started to write out this script, and that would be the Steel type based Eevee. Yeah, it would be strong against Sylveon and resistant to poor Espeon, you know, making it a little bit less equal in terms of our Eeveelutions. So when all the chips are down, I am willing to bet that if we get an Eeveelution in this, we will end up with either a Steel type or a Poison type Eeveelution after reviewing all of this footage. It's also in the future, so that's really cool. So there's the possibility that instead of being like, oh no, we forgot another Eevee existed, whatever will we do? It's, oh goodness me, there's another Eevee right there. We've actually ended up creating one. We ended up creating an Eevee. Huh. That'd be really fitting for the Steel type then. And in the end, a Steel type Eevee would be very fitting considering this is the whole renovation plan. Now, while we get confirmation for many past Pokemon from other games, I'm not going to talk about all of those. We have also no new Mega or regional variant Pokemon being revealed just yet. I guess we'll have to wait like 5 months before they start hyping things back up again for the release of the game that is coming late this year. As we know, this typically happens around fall, so just, you know, mark your calendars for fall, I suppose, unless they release it earlier, which, give them time. I want them to take their time. I'm loving this so far. But how about we talk about the characters that we encounter here? The most massive person, both figuratively and literally, is the big man AZ himself, and oh my gosh, he is dripped out. Like, turns out we will actually be talking to him plenty because he runs a hotel that you will be staying in during your stay within this new Lumiose, alongside his eternal floette that's with him. And oh my gosh, their smiles are so precious. They've earned that happiness that they have deserved after all this time. So I know the fact that we are staying in this hotel means that we are either from mainland Kalos or we are from another land. And I'll be real, we look a little bit suspiciously like our Generation 2 player character designs, but we also seem to kind of have Sycamore's curly hair even, so that could also be a possibility. I don't really know, but there isn't a lot to go on here, but it would be cool to see us as a child of a main character from past game Old Heroes, or even as a child of one of the professors themselves that has been sent here. Back to AZ though, my speculation is that he came here because he felt that he owed it to Kalos in general. After all, he was the king that built the ultimate weapon and ended the war, and that weapon was then used again in the modern age. He may have forgiven himself for what has been done, but now he wants to make amends and be here to build rather than tear things down, and to settle down and keep the peace within a new world that he would have a direct handover as he now has his eternal life. We'll come back to some speculation on his late game role later. Speaking of, I will say go check out my analysis on the Great War video. I have so many hours of Pokemon content on this channel to consume, and it's so much fun making this. Now, AZ's hotel is a bit grown over, which is really odd considering this is a new building, a new city. The windows look like they have Z's in them, and overall it just seems natural? This could mean one of two things, because why would AZ let this overgrow in such a short time, be unkempt? Especially if this city is developing and you want to attract consumers. It means that this was intentional and that AZ may have been directly asked to come back to be a part of this. Maybe he helped create some of the wild areas when this first started and was originally tending to the wildlife and the balance of nature as a whole. Maybe he knows where the Zygarde's gonna be. Maybe he has a tree in the back. I don't know. Whatever it is, it seems like he is leaning towards that balance of nature and city. We do also learn the redevelopment of the city is being done by Quasartico. Yes, they literally say Quasartico Inc., which we can see the word Quasar is in there, meaning a very bright, active, galactic nucleus that's powered by a supermassive black hole. Which, I really hope we don't have a massive black hole here, but that could mean something massive as part of my theory for this city as a whole as to where they're getting their energy from. This corporation is run by CEO Jet and her secretary Vinny. They both have the logo on them that I can't quite place myself, and it just reminds me of the Delta episode when Rayquaza just slammed straight through the Delta Meteor. It's the most loose tie-in, but it could have genuinely inspired people, or these people even, to use Mega Energy or Infinity Energy in general to help with this project. Maybe they even started to create Mega Stones and Keystones artificially, or through the power of Xerneas and Yveltal. I hope not, because they should not be used as weapons or tools or whatever. That'd be really bad. Jet is very hard to play. She has moon earrings, hair that looks like a French beret, and her having blonde hair and blue eyes makes it hard to pin down as to who she might be related to, as opposed to someone who might have red hair within the Pokemon franchise. There's a chance she has no actual relation to anyone, but knowing Pokemon, she's gonna be like, oh, I was the first of Clement's investors, works under him, or is somehow his mother, or something, I don't know. When we look at Vinny, though, he makes me very suspicious. He has Baniri and Pangoro as his hair toppers, which can allude to his own past, or even current mindset. Pangoro is a delinquent, someone who is a brawler that goes against the rules. Meanwhile, Baniri is seen as shy, frail, and scared, while also being able to break boulders with its ears. And even Lopunny's Mega Evolution becomes a fighting-type Pokemon that loves battles so much that it completely drops the fight-or-flight response and decides that I'm fighting literally everything that comes my way, and I will enjoy it. I'm willing to bet every single dollar within my wallet that has no money in it that this is going to be, Vinny is going to be a fighting-type Pokemon trainer through and through. I do also want to note his facial hair kind of reminds me of Lysander, but just being far removed enough to make me overlook it, but be suspicious. It's really weird. Even his eyes are covered up, which Sure, he might be a bodyguard. Sure, he might be protecting his identity because he's a CEO. But why here of all things? This is supposed to be a safe, like, city. So why are you taking these extra precautions? Sure, it might be style, but I just don't trust it. There is also the weird tease that I feel uncomfortable with, which is these two will make your time in Lumiose all the richer. To enter Team Flare, you needed to pay millions of dollars to join them. Otherwise, you are not allowed to join Team Flare unless Lysander himself would say, yeah, you're coming in here. Something is just way too off about this guy, and we'll come back to that later as well. I know I keep saying that, but I want to keep going with what is here and not just speculation yet. The last reveal we have is actually our rivals, which are either Urbane or Towny, which is literally just Urban or Towny or Urban Town. The other only bit of analysis I have regarding them is that, I don't know, they seem to have hair that is very similar to the normal type trial captain in Alola, Lima, and I will admit, their hair is pretty cool. I love the fade that they added to it. It's really nice. Now on to some small things that I got a little overexcited about before I make my Hail Mary prediction of our story, our characters, and how all of this is going to unravel. We can climb onto buildings, which is fun, and I had made a fun little joke before my reaction stream that I was like, I hope I could climb onto buildings and just fly off of them, and then we literally get to climb up on the buildings, and I don't know, I geeked out. It was so nice. We also do get to see a little Zygarde cell worming its way around, so we get to discover all of those cells all over again, potentially even seeing a full Zygarde as part of the main story. And we get to see a very interesting little room fit with a cloak, map, and more that looks a bit too much similar in design and layout to Looker's little headquarters room. I mean, wallpaper, floor, everything is just screaming that we will see Looker sometime in the game to some capacity. And so, we move on to my massive prediction to how all this is going to play out. Lysander is here. I think Vinny might be a red herring, but it is possible that he is actually Lysander, or at least a Lysander apologist. He believes deep within himself that the vision of Lysander needs to be brought to fruition, that a beautiful world needs to be preserved and become eternal. I will also note that Lysander could be here because in all forms of media, while Lysander is hit by the beam, it is never shown what his fate actually is. Even if we look at the Pokemon anime, we see Lysander get absolutely smashed by full-form Zygarde, which, by the way, in the anime, Lysander creates a false Zygarde that he wanted to mimic the entire power of 100% Zygarde. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow we got that here, and it was just called, like, the Stone or the Rock, and it was red in color. It was really cool, but also terrifying because it took multiple gym leaders, multiple champions, and our main characters to actually defeat. Now, the only other idea that we get as to what happens to Lysander is that when there was the Rainbow Rocket episode in Ultra Moon, he remembers a bright light, and then he was here. In fact, he states how he knows his fate and how he must make the Ultra Moon universe beautiful as well, and decided to make another ultimate weapon. This means that the ultimate weapon can be recreated, a weapon that runs on the energy of Pokemon, but could be adjusted to work on people. And when he did fire it, within the Pokemon Generations series, he states how there is only one way to make people understand his own pain, and that is to grant them eternal life, to walk the earth and realize how imperfect it is, and how true beauty must be preserved even at the sacrifice of others. And personally, our map looks a little bit too close to the layout of where we find the ultimate weapon within the X and Y games, so enough teasing you, here is my prediction. Whether it be by Lysander, now eternal, working from the shadows, or Vinny, who is secretly Lysander, the new Lumiose city is secretly built with the ability to become the next ultimate weapon. It would be able to harness power of all the individuals that were living in the city. Walls could go up, separating those who the new Team Flare deem as beautiful and worthy of keeping alive, separating all others, and use the energy of the unworthy and fire the weapon across not only the city, but the world itself, while being completely separated and isolated from the rest of the world, meaning that they would be safe, and you could take in a lot more power, potentially being out at sea, as you are surrounded by water that would keep it cool. This could also be where the great corporation of Quasartico is getting their energy from. A miniature or different version of the ultimate weapon that people would not be aware of. After all, this city is made from the bottom up. We keep seeing digital blueprints that make up the city, but there has to be far more technology hidden here that could mimic the ultimate weapon. This also wouldn't be the first time in the Pokemon franchise that we see something like this happen, as even the Pokemon League makes a miniature version of the ultimate weapon in order to capture Rayquaza for further testing. So again, not outside of the realm of possibility. And ultimately, I will predict that by the end of the game, we will have to team up alongside AZ to stop whoever it is trying to make Lysander's original plan a reality. Whether again, that be Vinny, who is mimicking Lysander, another Lysander apologist, or Lysander himself. Someone who had hands on the development of this city. Also wouldn't be against leaving the ultimate weapon in the past, but we could have a very fun Full Metal Alchemist situation where the entire city turns into a trap, which is a terrifying concept. The number one way to make somebody scared is to turn their home into the horror scene. Actually, I will note one more thing before I forget it again. The red Zygarde from the anime might be possible by all means. The only other idea that I get towards this is at the end, we get to see the Rotom phone glitch out. And we get a same phrase that keeps being thrown out. And on top of that, the kind of end screen kind of turns red. That could, again, go back to the whole Full Metal Alchemist kind of idea of the entire city is going to become a trap. Maybe we're going to get that rock or stone Zygarde that we got from the anime. I'm not sure, but I wanted to throw that in there as one more piece of just loose evidence that could show us the world. So, what are your thoughts on the trailer? Anything you're hoping for or excited about? Any theories? How do you feel about my fun little thing at the end there? Any other analyses that you can think of? Throw it in the comments. I typically read everything, even if I don't always react to it. And I am also hoping, personally, for a more detective-like role within this city as we solve problems and continue to explore all over. Maybe even get a rooftop chase, because while cliche, that sounds really fun to me. So, with that, as always, if you enjoyed, please make sure you subscribe, share this with others. Again, comment stuff below, and if you enjoyed this, go check out my other analysis videos. I have a ton of fun, multiple hours, ecology, deep analysis, can you survive the waters, what's the best region to live in, so on and so forth. And if you enjoy this stuff, support the channel, go as far as to become a member for as little as $3 a month. Makes a massive difference, or even give us super thanks. It does a lot to help with a smaller and developing channel. I won't harp on that though, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't anything I want to do, don't anything I want to do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!